You're listening to Cancer Convos with Brady and Stacy.
Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Cancer Convos, sponsored by Chelsea Smith Cosmetics, Bismarck Cancer Center, Give 5 to Cancer Foundation, and the Jolliffe Institute of Restorative Medicine and Aesthetics. I'm Bob Brady.
I'm Stacy Sturm.
And a special guest today, an old friend. He's just a friend. He's not old.
He's a long time friend.
Old is
not
fine.
old friend.
It's Phil Parker, everybody. Good morning,
Wow.
Phil.
Yeah, hey,
Boy,
Phil.
the radio blast from the past here. In
Right?
90s Bismarck radio, right?
Did you ever think 20 years ago, the three of us would be doing a Zoom meeting to make a podcast for the internet? Like, no way. No way.
All Zoom meant to me back then was a cartoon going fast.
Right?
Yeah.
That was not a thing.
Or
Yeah.
that TV show on PBS. Remember, Zoom was on there.
There
Yep.
you go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And now, and then I started my radio station up in 2008, and everybody was like, "You're crazy.
Yep.
You're going to leave regular broadcasting and go to this internet thing. That's just a fad. Just a fad.
It's going to pass at some point.
It's going to pass.
It's a long
No,
path.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, so it's nuts. But here we still are. All
Here
of
we
us.
are. And we're
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
now I'm an old man yelling at clouds. So
Yeah,
get
so
off my lawn.
you retired from
I
the
did.
business, Phil. When did how many years did you do mornings?
I did mornings, probably 40 years. I was in broadcasting about 44 years full time. And I think about 40 of those were mornings, 28 of them at KFYR.
Yeah.
And there were some other locations as well, Indiana, Wisconsin, Illinois. Yeah, but there were a few other places, but the majority was in Bismarck. And after 40 years of alarm clocks at 4 a.m.,
Yeah.
I'm not having any problem sleeping until 8 or 9. Not a problem.
Not at all.
No.
I do kind of miss it a little bit. I miss the way radio was. I
Yeah.
don't miss radio now. I miss the way radio was back in the day. And it makes me sound like such an old person. But back in the day when morning radio was just the thing, and you got up and it was the grind, and you were the source for news, and you were the source for entertainment news, and you were just like, you were a important part of the community.
And the station was full of people. And
Yes.
it was full of characters. Radio
Yes.
people were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The camaraderie and the little competitions on the side, and even though we were in the same building, we still wanted to kick your ass.
Oh yeah, exactly,
You know.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
and
the taunting we did of each other, the trash talk.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't a lot of that, but it still was like
Nope.
one of those things where it's like it's changed so much, but it really hasn't, because radio's still on.
It
They've
is.
just
Yep.
they've just downsized it so much that there's nothing really left of what used to be. It's like a shell of itself.
Yeah. Which is kind of why I started up the station, is because I saw that was starting to happen. And I was like, people are going to be leaving. As soon as you start to do that, people are going to be leaving, and they're going to try to find something. And so that's why I started up the station, is because I wanted people back on the air, which is crazy concept. Now, no matter how many people podcast or do their shows or whatever, to me, it's still not the same as when you worked in broadcasting.
Yeah.
It's just really not.
And I will say, it even in my position, I was one of the lucky ones, really, with the show I had. They pretty much left me alone.
Yeah.
So I was one of the few very fortunate ones where I was kind of felt like my own boss.
Yeah.
And I was one of the lucky ones to decide the day I retired too, which I know many people aren't that lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
a lot of people don't get to retire from radio anymore. You're kind of, yeah.
I was
You're
very
replaced.
fortunate. Let's just say that.
But now you're on our show called Cancer Combos, not to just reminisce about radio.
Which
you
I'd love to.
Which
Yeah.
we do. We could talk about this for hours,
Yeah,
but everybody
absolutely.
here is here because they can relate to another topic, which is cancer. And you are yet another radio person that has been diagnosed with cancer. So tell us how that all came about, Phil. How did you find out?
Well, I retired in August of last year, and one of the reasons is we know too many people that got cancer at a younger age and didn't really get to enjoy their retirement. So lo and behold, in February, I went for my physical, and the doctor looked me over. Everything looked great, and he said, for your 63-year-old man, you're in pretty good shape. I don't think I'll be seeing a lot of you. He said, I think you're a very healthy patient. And well, later on that day, the blood test results come back. And one of the blood tests you get, of course, is the PSA test,
Yeah.
which is prostate. And mine was at a 6.7 and it should be below a 4. So I get a note from the doctor in my chart basically saying this PSA level is high. It's probably nothing, but we'd like you to see a urologist just to make sure. So went to a urologist near Indianapolis, and he told me that, it's probably nothing, but we're going to take this other blood test. It's called a pH test. It's a kind of advanced pH test or a PSA test. And that'll give us a better gauge on whether or not it's cancer. So I did that test and waited a while for the results to come back on that. And then the nurse called and said, yes, the results are back of your pH test, and it's probably nothing, but it's a 21% chance you have cancer with the score I had. I can't remember what the score was at the time, but it was a 21% chance I had cancer. So I'm thinking, 89% chance or 79%.
Sure, yeah.
I don't. So I thought odds are pretty good. So that they did request I do a biopsy at that point, which is the biopsy for prostate cancer is not a pleasant experience. I'm not going to go into details on it. It's if I had the choice to go through the surgery or the biopsy, it'd be a coin toss, I think. So anyway, I did the biopsy, and again, and the doctor, the urologist after the biopsy said, looking at your prostate didn't look terribly enlarged. He said, as far as I could tell visually, I think you're probably okay. So I went out feeling pretty good. And then we get the call driving back from a visit in Wisconsin. And it was the doctor who said that the results of the biopsy came back. And yes, you do have cancer. And there are two sides of the prostate, a left side and a right side. And the one on the right side, he said, that's a mild form of cancer. And I guess when you hear about prostate cancer, the common knowledge of it is it's curable.
Yeah.
Although it is the second leading cancer killer of men, I don't think a lot of people realize that. And yes, it is in most cases curable, but it can also be serious as well. My other side, they have what's called a Gleason score, and that is the severity of the cancer, the aggressiveness of the cancer, and it's basically anything between 6 and 10 is what they're concerned with. Well, if it's a 6, it's probably the very slow growing kind, because there are some cancers that people get and they live with the rest of their life, prostate cancer. Mm-hmm. So if you have a 6, you're probably not even going to be treated for it. 7 is more something you have to keep an eye on. Aggressive is 8 to 10. I was an 8 according to that. So it was an aggressive prostate cancer. So he said my choices were radiation or the surgery. And when I talked about the procedure and the side effects of both, we opted for the surgery because the problem with the radiation, and that would have been, I think, 50 some treatments every day for a couple of months or whatever. Wow. But if they do the radiation and then it doesn't work, they cannot take the prostate out at that point. So you'll be treated the rest of your life doing that. If you get the prostate surgery, the removal, if they get it out, then chances are they did get it all. And if they aren't, then they can do radiation after that.
Sure.
So they did the surgery. I had the surgery coming up 3 weeks ago tomorrow, Friday. And I spent, an overnight in the hospital. The surgery itself wasn't painful. The worst part of it was you have to be hooked up to a catheter for about 10 days afterwards, which is
10 days.
Not a pleasant No, that was not a pleasant experience doing that. You get through it, but the day I got that out was a very happy day. But he told me too, after on my follow-up visit when they took the catheter out, that I noticed in the path report when they sent it, and I hate reading these things because I'm not a doctor, but I did read it on the my chart, and it said my Gleason score, and that was a 7. So I asked him about that. I said, so I noticed the Gleason score, and this is a 7, and you had an 8 before. And he said, well, you're lucky you're one of the lucky ones. You actually got downgraded because when you do the surgery, then we can look at more tissue and get a better look. And so that was a good thing. So my prognosis at this point, I go back in about a month, where it's at which point I should be cleared back to living, lifting heavy things, mowing the lawn, etc. My poor wife, she's having fun doing that.
Yeah.
And resume normal activities, and then they'll keep an eye on a PSA tests every few months, just to make sure. And if it does start up again, then I would go to radiation. But the outlook for the most part is very good at this point. I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, we're thankful too. The thing that we've been doing this podcast for about 3 months now, and the common thread that all the guests we've had on is that when they get first diagnosed, the doctor and or nurse always says it's probably nothing. But yes, and I say it every time, like, and I hate to say it again, but I will. Medicine is a practice, and they're practicing on you.
Mm-hmm.
And Phil Parker is different than Stacy, different than Bob. It's just our DNA is different. So how's it going to react?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And when you're looking at percentages, when someone says you have a 21% chance that you have it, you're thinking your odds are pretty good.
Yeah.
You don't. But I do, and I would definitely encourage all guys, especially over a certain age, probably 50 or so, to get those prostates checked, the PSA levels, and something to keep an eye on. And of course, get your yearly physical no matter what, because that's the way my wife also is a survivor of lung cancer, and hers was a very interesting story. If you want to hear that, about how that was diagnosed.
Yeah, go.
She was a complete stroke of luck. She had her physical, and so they took her blood pressure in her right arm at this appointment in the physical, and it was very the blood pressure was low in the right arm. So then they took it over in the left arm, and it was different, way different. It was normal or high. So they said, oh, there's something weird here, so we're going to do a CT scan of your chest, which they did, and they found a clot. It's called Steele syndrome. But not only did they find the clot, but they also said, we found a tumor on your lung.
Wow.
And which never would have been discovered had they not checked the blood pressure on both sides of her, her body. So that doctor, in fact, that found that, now has that as standard part of her practice. When she takes blood pressure for patients, she does it on both left and right arm.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad idea, because otherwise, had they not done that, they caught her cancer at a stage 1B. They did surgery. She lost a third of her lung, and it was very, very painful. And she still has a lot of that pain to this day, 10 years later. But she is a survivor. But had that not been discovered at that point, lung cancer doesn't show up until, if you have symptoms for lung cancer, the outlook is not good at all.
Yeah. Like it's
like, crazy.
It's so weird. And then we talk about this, and it's like they just find it. Like, here it is. We just found this, and there's no, cancer's huge.
Did you have symptoms? I mean, if I can ask both of you.
Well, I had like a big like lump on my neck for a bunch of years, and I thought it was just a goiter. So then I went in and got it checked out in 2014, and my yearly checkup and my PCP says that's moving. That has moved since the last time I saw it. And I said, really? Like, okay. So I went and got some scans or whatever. And sure enough, it was cancer in that little spot there. Well, it was touching my thyroid. And they took out the thyroid, and they took out 38 lymph nodes on a second surgery. Now it's moved into my lungs.
Ugh.
So the cancer's moved on. So I have like 2 tumors in my lungs. One's on the left, one's on the right. It's attacking my esophagus. As you can hear, my voice is kind of scratchy. I go in next week for another follow-up, but it just goes where it wants to go. And Stacy's is a whole other story as well. If your mic works, Stacy.
And
I had a ton of symptoms, but I just ignored them.
And a lot of, and that's very common for people to do that, because one thing, you're busy and you've got things to do, and another, I don't really want to know at this point.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's one of those things where you just think it's going to go away. You just hope it's going to go away.
Yep.
And especially if you've not been a sick person, typically, you just don't think it's going to, Yeah, there it's usually the last thing you think of. Like there's no way I ever thought in a million years I would have cancer. Like
Yeah.
just yeah. I'm sure
I
it's
think,
just I'm run down.
Especially
I'm
at such
working
a
too
young
hard.
age too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think for a lot of people, like that stigma was, oh, cancer's an old person thing. Like people
Yeah.
get it, and like I don't smoke, I don't do this, I don't do that. Well, how am I going to get
Yep.
cancer? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
But it happens. And what did you feel, Phil? Because I got the same thing. They called me and said I had cancer. Would you have rather them brought you in and told you, or was it
I
on the
was
phone fine?
I was glad it was on the phone. I mean, it
Okay.
didn't bother me on the phone because I knew that there was a chance anyway, and we were on the road at the time, and I didn't want to wait 2 weeks for an appointment to find out in person. So
Yeah.
I wanted to, whatever it was, and I knew there was a chance it would be, so I was ready for it either way, as much as you can be, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Did I understand though? Was your cat your first oncologist?
Oh.
Was your cat the first one
forgot
to
to mention
diagnose you,
that.
Phil?
Oh.
Yeah.
I did a Facebook post on that. My cat, our boy, he's about almost 10 years old now, and he's often sat in my wife's lap and her buddy, but never really sat in my lap. He's always wanted to be petted, very affectionate, but he never jumped up on my lap. He likes it when I pick him up, but he was never want to jump on my lap. So a few months ago, watching TV, all of a sudden he jumps up in my lap, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. He'd never done that before, so that was cool. Then the next night, and the next night, and so my wife and I look at each other and said, have you ever heard those cats that detect cancer? She said, yeah. We just kind of talked to each other. Yeah, I probably have cancer now. Ha ha. And sure enough, the little cancer sniffer, we call him now, cancer cat.
Wow.
So yeah, that was pretty interesting. So I'll be curious now, if I am cancer free, will he still come up in my lap?
Yeah.
So
Right.
far he has. So we'll see what happens.
That's funny.
It was tough keeping him off my lap though after I got the catheter, because I'm not having cats up on my lap.
No.
So I had to make it clear, nope, you're not coming up now, buddy.
Yeah. I got stuff going on down there. I don't need you getting on my lap. Yeah.
Nope.
Oh gosh. So Phil, what do you find has been the hardest part of going through your cancer treatments?
I guess the hardest part was the surgery itself. And the hard part at this point, and it's not terrible in some ways, but yeah, being forced to take, I can't go golfing, but that's one of life's smaller problems. If this is the worst of my problems, I'm truly blessed, that I have to take it easy for a while, and my wife has to mow the lawn. Or I can't take out the garbage,
Right.
So if that's the extent of my problems going forward, then that's, I'm truly blessed, and hopefully it'll stay that way. So, but otherwise and of course you have financial issues with it as well. But that'll work itself out, and it's fine. But you worry about things like that. One of the interesting things too, I was telling my son the other night about one of the interesting things that happened to me when I first was diagnosed was that, and I don't know if this is any other people go through this, or if this is just me, but when I closed my eyes at night, I would start to just flash back in my life. I just flashbacks to childhood, vivid stuff that I'd never remembered before necessarily. And I thought, what a weird thing. And it was like a week or two that happened, and I don't know if you had reactions like that at all, where when you got that diagnosis, that there was this, you start to think about mortality, in a realistic sense. And so my mind took me back there. I don't know if you reacted at all like that, or had any of those experiences, or.
I didn't.
I
but
still do. Yeah, I still do. Yeah,
Okay.
I do. I will periodically just sit on the porch as my dog's running around outside, and I'm waiting to bring him in. And I'm like, if I were to die, I would really miss this.
Mhm.
I would really miss just feeling the wind, or feeling the trees, or feeling the breeze, or watching a dog, or feeling the rain, or
Sure.
I still think about that, or other things. And you tend to kick around, and you feel thankful and kind of sad all at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's just a weird thing, and I don't feel like that's an unhealthy thing. I feel like
No.
yeah, but it's not nostalgia, it's not depression, it's just
Yeah.
you
It's
really
reflecting. you
it's
know?
it's reflecting, yeah, going through and thinking about like my radio career and little
Sure.
things that, little things
Oh.
that I never really appreciated before.
Yeah.
I really am starting to appreciate now.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely.
So,
Bob?
how long till the next? You got a month, you said, till your next little look.
Yeah, my appointment's September 20th. It would have been earlier, but we're going to be out of town for a while. But September 20th, and that's when they'll tell me whether I'm all clear to go back to normal activity, and which I
Yeah.
should be. And then they'll do a PSA test then to see where we're at with that as well. So fingers are crossed and knock on wood that
Yeah.
that'll all be
Good
good.
luck.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
luck, Phil.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
I have a color guard box in the house right now. They want me to
Oh,
do that thing.
Okay. Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which everybody should. Like, honestly,
I know,
if you have
but
any kind of weird symptoms, you probably should. I know it's not like they say it's not the be all and end all test for, scientific
What
What
purposes.
exactly is that then?
So what I'm supposed to do, I'm supposed to go to the bathroom, number
Okay.
2, and then apparently scoop it out
Okay,
Yeah.
that.
and then put it
Yeah.
into a box
Okay.
and then have the UPS guy handle it. And
Okay. Do you tell them what's in it when you give it to them?
I think
I don't think you have to tell them.
well, here's the thing. I have yet to open the box. It's just sitting there. Like, cause I don't,
Yeah.
and Heather, my wife, always says, just open the box and see what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if the bag is a different color, if it like it says something on it. I don't know. But maybe next week I'll
Yeah.
try and I'll let us know what it
Uh-huh.
is, because I don't want to do it. It's
No,
one of those things like,
I can't blame you.
no,
Yeah.
I don't like picking up dog poop. I'm going to pick up my own poop. Like, I
Yeah.
don't understand.
I have to say, when you go through cancer or any kind of a medical issue, you really just kind of become, I don't know. Anybody could look at my body right now. I do not care. Poke, prod,
Yeah.
anybody can look at my body. I talk very openly about pee and poop
Yeah.
and constipation and
All the
diarrhea.
time.
In fact, we were talking on one of our shows about a poop plan. Everyone needs to have a poop plan if you're going through some kind of treatments that mess up your body.
That's
Like,
different
I
than
have become-
STHF plan, right?
So yeah, so it's just like I thought when I had a baby and became kind of desensitized to that.
Sure.
Oh, no,
yeah.
this is a whole other level.
The older you get you get desensitized to it. a
Like,
little bit.
whatever, I don't care.
And anyone who's had kids gets desensitized to it,
Yeah,
handling diapers and bodily functions.
yeah,
You can poke me, prod me, just keep me alive. That's all.
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
exactly.
I don't care as long as the end result is I'm still here. I'm good.
Well, you both look great. You know, you
You
really
too,
do.
Phil.
Phil.
You know, absolutely. You both look fit as fiddles.
Yeah,
I don't know
sure.
about that, but sure. Maybe a cello.
It's cello. There you go.
Or an upright bass.
Yeah,
One of those,
upright
yeah.
bass. Yeah.
You and me
Oh,
both.
yeah, I'm with you. Well, Phil, this has been awesome. We'd love to have you on. We have another podcast called 24 Minutes with Brady and Stacy, and love to have you on that and chat about all those.
That's where we
Wacky-
can talk about all the
yeah.
changing media and
Well,
all
yeah.
wacky radio stories. Yeah.
And I possibly
yeah,
am
for
going to
sure.
be part of a project too of talking old times. Will be part of it because it'll be kind of a reigniting perhaps of an old radio show. So that'll be a podcast form. So
No,
haven't solidified that yet, but love to have you on for that too, if and when that happens. So it'll be a lot of fun.
it is.
All right,
It's fun.
everybody, tune in for old people talking about good times.
Hey, and Bob, Vikings this year. Is this the year?
I was gonna ask you about that. They can't do any worse than they did last year.
Oh, they did great last
I
year.
know.
Was the entertaining season ever.
100%.
It was. But see, my theory is their offense is going to put up a lot of points this year, and their defense,
The
I
defense
think,
is-
could be middle of the pack. I think they're going to have a worse record, yet they'll be a better team, if that makes sense.
And now's the year to do it, because the only
Let's do
team
it.
that's really any threat is Detroit. Green
Yeah.
Bay's not going to be good. Chicago's not good. Let's go.
Well,
Let's
I'm
go.
talking NFC. I'm not worried about the division.
Oh,
I'm
NFC.
talking Super Bowl, baby.
I'm with you there, Super Bowl homeboy. Yeah, I'm with you
Got
there
it.
too. But it's again, we've been Viking fans a long time, Phil, and
Yeah.
we know what happens in the end. It's just
We're due.
heartbreak.
We're due.
So
Yeah.
hopefully this is the year, because
Goal.
let's go, brother.
All right.
All right, let's cancel convos. This is good. We'll do this in 24 minutes. I like that. We do that little.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like that. Cancer Convos is sponsored by Chelsea Smith Cosmetics, Bismarck Cancer Center, the Give 5 to Cancer Foundation, and the Jolliffe Institute of Restorative Medicine and Aesthetics. Have a great week.
You did it. You did it.